Hello everyone and welcome to His Author's Voice, and I am the author Jack Sanger. The short story you're about to hear is called Postscript. I hope you like it. Postscript. Death's Door. Rennie Crowe was closing for the day. She'd just put a domain of the quantum computer into a night-long data crunch and had stood up for the final stretch exercises she rigorously followed upon the hour, every hour, when one of the monitors caught her eye. In place of the data churn logo, a clutch of strange hieroglyphic symbols hung for several seconds on the screen before it returned to normal. She bent forward to see if she could trawl back and recover them, when her mobile phone rang. It was the call she'd been expecting from the hospice. Her mother had died. She had been, as her mother put it, loitering with intent to die for several weeks, so long that Rennie could not take time off work to be with her all of the time. In her more fanciful moments, Rennie believed her mother would wait until she was there before departing. After all, she was a self-proclaimed white witch. Before locking up, she paid a brief visit to the bathroom, checked her expansive black ringlets forming a bush on top of her head, washed and creamed her dark face, and applied a bluish-pink lipstick to her mouth. She stared into her near-black pupils. No sign of grieving then. 40 was too young to lose a mother, even one like Martha Crowe, astrologer, diviner, wickie, and whatever else she professed to be. As she got into her small sports car, Rennie thought her mother had not been one for medicine of the regular kind. It was she, Rennie, who'd made her have the checkup on the lump in her neck, refusing to accept her mother's explanation that it was her body's psychic resistance to accepting some painful truth. What this truth might be, she'd never relayed to Rennie. They had taken her in immediately on the GP's note. Tests, 3 weeks, Martha beginning to fade, not eating, intravenous nourishment, then the frailer voice on the phone each time they talked, the mere whisper when she was at the bedside, and finally the hospice. One Martha had chosen. She said she wanted a good death, being allowed to open her being to those ancient forces she'd always embraced. Rennie parked and went in. There was the blur of form filling and answering questions. Then she was given a bag of her mother's possessions and led down to the morgue. Her mother appeared waxen and grey, as though her black pigment had been her living essence, and it had all been drained away. Rennie found herself shuddering convulsively and tears wetting her eyes. She clasped her mother's hand and remembered doing it as a child, but now it gave her no reassurance. And she certainly did not feel she was offering anything to Martha's inert husk. When she finally got back to her flat in the Georgian Crescent, she poured a glass of schnapps and went through her mother's bags of necessities. Tarot pack, crystals, henna, face paints, phials of herbal mixtures, and a computer tablet Rennie had given her, taught her how to use, and which she loved like a disciple of a new cult. With a morbid curiosity, she wondered what was the last thing her mother had done before the final waves had breached her defences. She expected to see an online I Ching or tarot reading, or an engagement with a forum on magic in the 22nd century. Instead, the last program was a camera recording. She clicked on the link and there was her mother's face, at a bizarre angle. She must have propped up the tablet on her knees somehow. She pressed playback. Hello, Rennie, and to all it may concern. I thought I'd record my last thoughts now that I no longer believe I will be carried across the river. I want you to know my suspicions. She dragged down a gulp of air. Rennie's eyebrows lifted. Was this yet another conspiracy theory her mother had entertained at the very end? Looking back on my life, I thought I was charmed. Something seemed to intervene and save me from premature death on so many occasions. Accidents, illnesses, you name it. I always thought it was Gaia reaching out, or a cosmic essence. But now, I'm not so sure. I thought I'd always been able to divine psychic forces shaping and impelling my destiny. I felt a certain sensation in those near-death circumstances. I might describe it as a tug-back, like a parent catching a child's hood and pulling her back as she's about to step in the road with a car coming. This happened so many times in my life, I can't count. As if this unknown force... Her face disappeared, and Rennie, disbelieving, saw on the screen the same symbols she glimpsed on her quantum. A bigger layout, but with the same unfathomable architecture. It was like nothing she'd ever encountered. Her mother's face reappeared. Was trying to unlock it, you know. Divine the hidden truth. It wasn't magic, I'm sure now, though I'd been certain that that was the case for my whole life. Rennie, it's given me a terrible jolt. A seismic shift, as you might say. If I've spent my life on a trail that seemed to provide all the signposts to an ancient power and wisdom, and then discover it was an illusion, can you imagine? Her voice faltered. There followed intermittent breaks in her message, with strings of glyphs filling the screen. Every time her face reappeared, it was less distinct and more affected by tiny missing segments. What it's like to be human, you know? Being human. Prick me. Do I not bleed? So what's going... No, I feel I was being deceived in a very elaborate way. My whole life made a too perfect sense, as though it had been written out and double-checked for anomalies. Those intercessions of what I took to be fate gave me... It was too pat. My life was too pat. Like I was a cipher, you know, a character with certain traits, and I had to fit some grand plan which involved... I know you think I'm mad enough already, but don't you see? You put me on it, Rennie. When you gave me this tablet, this box of tricks, I didn't tell you because you'd think I was seeing things, but coming and going without me touching a key or giving a voice command, pictures, messages, strange symbols. Add up, I was sure I wasn't meant to see them, you know? Like there was a breakdown in my life and the unknown force could no longer protect me, and the force had never been the old magic. I was falling. No, disintegrating before my very eyes. All the pictures of me you'd uploaded from photographs twisting and turning on the screen, some even burning, and my face, and all the faces of life left. The screen filled with the symbols, and Rennie realised that they were rapidly changing as though enormous tracts of code were scrolling, unhindered, to some obscure completion. Her mother's face came back, and the blotching was worse, as if the camera was losing random areas of pixel. Not comforting for you. Warning you's no use. Because we're all in the same mix. Oh, Rennie, But whatever. It had to let go. I'm going, darling. I do love you, even if The screen almost exploded in symbols and then went dead. Rennie tried to restart it, but there was no spark of life in it. With a panic-ridden sense of something awful and beyond her reason, she put on her coat and went to the car. The quantum at work might shine some light. She drove fast, but had the sense that it would make no difference. She would get there when she was supposed to get there. As the car drew up in her allotted space, the research centre began to undergo a transformation, bending and warping and twisting into a grey, smoky spiral, and finally disappearing along with the buildings around it and the car park, and her hand now rested on nothing. Her car had gone. Renee patted herself as if to make sure she wasn't hallucinating, but her mind skittered wildly and then blanked, and a darkness, beyond the apprehension of human senses, natural or supernatural, enveloped her. Well, that was postscript. As you may have realised, it ploughs the same philosophical furrow as the Matrix trilogy of films and some other science fiction. The concept being that we're part of a vast computer game being played out by highly intelligent beings in the future. It is part of modern philosophical thought. If you like the story and want to hear others, of course, check the site out. There are plenty there. But if you prefer to read, you can go to my website, www.jacksanger.com. And there you'll find novels, plays and short stories that you can download for free, or you can make a donation. It's entirely up to you. In the meantime, please subscribe to this site now. And then tell your friends. The more that listen, the merrier. See you soon. Bye for now. Bye-bye.